Hi guys, Chris here, back checking out another brand of mobile phone. So this is UMIDIGI's Z2 that was just released here. So this is powered by the MediaTek P23, that's an octa-core CPU. It's paired up with 6 gigabytes of RAM, a 64 gigabyte ROM. It runs Android 8.1. It has a notch display on here, so if you're after that new, somewhat questionable trend, then this has, of course, got that on there. So the earpiece will be a little bit smaller, and it does have dual cameras on the front. So we've got one that's 16, the other is 8, and the same exact setup on the rear. So one is 16, 8, f2.0 aperture. UMIDIGI claim they are using Sony sensors there, curved glass rear, and a metal body around the outside of it, the frame of it, so it should hopefully have a reasonably good build quality. The battery capacity is 3,850 milliamp hours. And the display is at full HD plus because of the notch. It's a little bit of an odd resolution, so it's 2246 by 1080. Now it does have 18-watt quick charge as well with this, dual SIM support. So we have a rather plain looking black box here. On the back of it, you can see it's just listing those specs here. So if you want to know the LTE band support, you can see that right there. So it does cover band 20. In fact, it's got global band support, which is great for a phone of this price, of course. So I can see the phone already has a case on it, which is good to see more manufacturers doing this, including cases. So this is a textured matte rubber, which is good. It'll give it a little bit more grip to it. Obviously, when your hands are cold and dry, phones can be very slippery, considering this also has glass on the rear. It does cover the volume up and down and the power button there, which is good, that case. But I will just put that phone to the side there for a minute and we'll take a look at what else we get. So we've got this little leaflet here. This is just saying thank you for choosing UMIDIGI. So that'll be your warranty card, your instructions and all that. The SIM tray tool right here. And then we do have a red Type-C cable. And this right here, of course, is what we're going to need for audio. So that's our Type-C to 3.5mm adapter. Unfortunately, no 3.5mm support on this model. And then our MediaTek Pump Express charger. The maximum output of this one is 12 volts, 1.5 amps, and you can see it is a EU plug. So the Z2 weighs 168 grams and comes in at 9mm thick. So it does come with this pre-applied screen protector out of the box. Taking a look at this wide notch we have here. So that's the first thing that strikes you when you look at the phone. We do have 2.5D rounded glass corners here, which it has, the manufacturer claims, Gorilla Glass. 2 front-facing cameras. So one's 16 megapixels, obviously the larger one there, then the 8 megapixel is the one to the right of it. Now the earpiece you can see is very small. That is about half the size of your typical earpiece. Hopefully this is not going to affect call quality. I will have to test that out. And then to the left of the earpiece, right here, we have an ambient light sensor and a proximity sensor. Now, UMIDIGI on their webpage, I was seeing they advertise like 3D face unlocking tracking, but it's not using actual proper 3D mapping, things like what the iPhone 10 has. No, that's really kind of false advertising there because it's just using your typical Android 2D face unlocking. Now on the rear, you'll see we've got a dual tone LED flash, another 2 cameras, rear round fingerprint reader. Now these cameras, again, it's the same setup as the front. So an f2.0 aperture, 16 and 8 megapixels. You can see that we also have curved glass with the edge along here, which is a nice touch. It has quite a bit of a Samsung feel to it. And why I say that is, it's just the design of it. So we've got the metal frame around the outside. On the left-hand side here, you can see there's our SIM tray. So that will take either a nano SIM and micro SIM or nano plus micro SD card. You can see some antenna lines there. So top and bottom, and the middle goes around. And we have a speaker grill at the bottom. So obviously there's going to be one speaker in here, the mic, and then a Type-C port. Up the top, secondary microphone, that is it. So there is no IR transmitter with this one. And we don't have a 3.5mm headphone jack, sadly. So the buttons are on the right-hand side. We've got the power volume up and down, and they are made out of metal, and they do have a good feel to them. So the build quality for a $250 US phone, I feel is good. It's very good. It feels nice in hand. The weight isn't too bad, and neither is really the thickness. Time to power it up now, and we'll take a look at that display. So UMIDIGI there. It's an IPS panel. The resolution's 2246 by 1080. And it is running stock Android 8.1. I hope they haven't put any bloatware on this. So I just had to tone down the ISO settings of my camera because, of course, when you first boot this up, they put the screen into basically like a full brightness. It's set on full brightness at the moment, I believe. And here we have, obviously, a good look at the notch and the bezels. Side bezels aren't bad at all. We still have quite a bit of a chin here. So the bottom bezel is large. And, yeah, still quite a large top bezel there, even though we have the notch. So we go through setup here very quick. In fact, I'll skip ahead with this because this is just going to be a standard Android 8.1 setup. Okay, so here we go on the ROM. So I went through the typical setup of Android 8.1. I added my fingerprint and just put my credentials in there for Google Play Store. So you can see it is here. Now we'll have a look at the stock apps we've got on board. So there are quite a few there. I guess they've added a lot of, you could say, Google's bloat. But there is a good thing here that we're not seeing any unwanted kind of Chinese bloat or applications that aren't even relevant to literally anyone that isn't, of course, living in China. So that's not there, which is good to see. FM radio, so we do have hardware FM radio. Actually, that's the first time I've seen it with only a Type-C port. So obviously they've wired it through the Type-C. Other manufacturers haven't even bothered to do that. For example, with Xiaomi phones, when they have the Type-C port, they normally drop FM radio hardware tuner support. So I'll have a look and see what version here it is running. So it's Android 8.1, but the patch level is May the 5th. So that's another positive there. That's recent. That is good to see. And I don't believe there are any wireless updates, but I will check right now. No, at the time of this video, I'm on the current software. So that SIM tray correction here will take 2 nano SIMs or a nano SIM and micro SD card. The frame around it is reinforced with metal as well, which is good. Now to demonstrate the fingerprint reader, I find it to be a little bit slow actually, so it isn't always on one. Place my finger there and you can see it just comes on, so it will take about 2 seconds there. So 1, 2, yeah, about 1.5 seconds. So it's not the fastest. Now taking a look at the display, so the gamma checks out to be approximately around 2.3, and it is an IPS, so the viewing angles, they're okay, but probably because of the screen protector actually that this is happening, that it does shift out to darken a little bit when you look at it at certain angles. So not the kind of viewing angles, of course, that you'd get from, say, an AMOLED panel, but for this price range, category of mobile phone, the display does look good. The maximum brightness of this panel tops out at 450 lux, which is not bad. The whites are a slight tiny bit cool white. There seems to be no mirror vision application on here. Normally it's through the display settings where you can tweak your white balance, and that's missing. The blacks look okay for an IPS panel. Colors as well do look good. So all in all, this is a decent panel that they have used here, the 6.2 inch IPS. Now there's one important thing to point out with the notches, and this is happening with all the notch phones that I have recently reviewed, apart from perhaps maybe OnePlus because their notch is not so wide. But you're missing out on a lot of, I feel, key crucial information that you have with a mobile phone. So you can't see the battery percent right here. You have to swipe down and then you'll see your remaining battery percent. Notifications, for example, if you're on 4G or not, again, you're not going to see it. So you have to bear in mind that when you swap over to a notch phone that you are going to be missing out on some of that important information. It just cannot be displayed because there isn't enough physical room there to put it all in a display because of the notch. Now, apart from that hiccup with the ROM, the rest of the experience is quite good. It's actually very smooth. Multitasking, going through, selecting your various different apps. That is all quite good. Of course, we've just got the on-screen navigation buttons. It doesn't have a gesture mode with it, but I have noticed that the performance of the ROM in general really is good. Apps install fast, moving around is really quick, and of course you can do multi-screen, split-screen mode here because it is running Android 8. That came in with Android 7. So for example, you want Play Store here, drag that to the top. That will be at the bottom. You want to load in here's, for example, Treble Check, and then you can see right there that both of these are working well. It does run a little bit slower though, depending on what apps you're running in the split screen mode. But yes, performance, good. that at least gets a thumbs up from me. Looking now at synthetic benchmarks, this is Antutu. So the Helio P23 can get 80,000 in this one here. So that's on par with other mobiles that run this chipset. It's about 20,000 points less than the Helio X20 and about 50,000 points since a Snapdragon 636. Wireless AC speeds, the throughput here, connecting up to check out just the maximum I can get. So it's not dependent on my actual connection speed, but more the router to the mobile, not so great here. So it was about 150s the maximum. Ideally, I like to see a lot higher than this. If it's over 300, that's really good. But this is all the chipset can really do. So if you have a fast fiber line, you cannot take advantage and get really super quick download speeds of those large Android games. Now the GPS, perfectly fine here. It doesn't lock onto every single satellite that it will see, but the accuracy always hovers around 3 and 4 meters, so that's not a problem, and this includes driving, moving around in the car, so it's going to be fine for GPS. Of course, it does have a hardware compass that is part of the sensors that it has on there. And when it comes to 4G download speeds and uploads, perfectly fine. I mean, I'm with Orange in Spain here, and that is about all I can get where I'm situated at the moment with any phone. So, you know, their speeds are poor, but no issues with the signal strength either. Has been good for both wireless and for 4G. So the internal storage, eMMC 5.1 spec, which is good to see. I half expected to see the older 4.5.1 spec eMMC in this, and those are a lot slower. So this is fast. Of course, it's not as fast as UFS, but for this price range of phone, this is not bad at all. Treble check. So does it support seamless updates? No, because we don't have access to both of the partitions here. So that's a little disappointing to see. If it had this, it will be much better for getting updates and also for things like custom ROMs and all that. And now when it comes to the wide vine support, it's a level 3. So what does this jargon mean? Well, that means no Netflix HD. No, it's just going to be in your standard definition, unfortunately. So 1080p YouTube, that's not a problem, but the purpose of showing you this right now is just to give you a sample of that loudspeaker, which is rather loud, but it's not super high quality, but does the job. And checking out gaming performance here. So this is PUBG on the medium setting that it auto-detected. So I've just gone with this setting. And I have noticed that from time to time you will get some lag and some stutter. But for the most part, it is actually good. It is playable. You can see when I zoom in there with the scope. So that's fine. Just don't expect the best performance because you will be a little bit disappointed with that. From time to time you will see those lags and those stutters as mentioned. And you will notice too that there is this odd black bar at the top. So something's up with that. It's obviously down to software that UMIDIGI will need to patch this. After 20 minutes of gaming, I have noticed that the phone does get quite warm to the touch. It gets up to around about 33, 34 degrees maximum is what I've seen on the back of the phone. Taking a look now at the camera app. So the stock camera app is missing one important feature that was advertised on their website, that it could take those bokeh effect photos, so with the blurred backgrounds using the dual cameras, but it doesn't seem to be there. So if you swipe down from the top, you will see that these are the settings we have here. So you're able to set the picture size up to 16 megapixels, your ISO, various other settings, but there's nothing there to actually swap that mode over into what would probably be in one of these spaces here would be that setting. So they obviously need to add that with a firmware update. It's not available at the time of my video here, so that should hopefully be coming soon. We do have HDR mode, you can see. In video mode you can shoot also up to 1080p here. That's the maximum, and those are the settings there. So video format, you can change that over to the dated, very dated now, 3GP, which I would not recommend using. So this is a sample of the front-facing camera. It can shoot in 1080p maximum, and the quality is alright. Audio is okay, not too bad. No electronic image stabilization, so you see that it will shake around. You're obviously going to have to use one of those handheld mobile gimbals to get steady footage with this front-facing camera. Sample footage now, this is from the rear camera, so 1080p maximum, no electronic image stabilization, no 4K, 1080p only. There are other mobile phones that are actually cheaper than this one here that can shoot in 4K, and some of them even support electronic image stabilization with applications like Open Camera. So that is an area of disappointment here. The sound seems to be alright, and you're getting reasonable 1080p quality here. Could perhaps be just a little bit sharper, but again, we're just lacking out on resolution because it cannot shoot in 4K. Okay, so just to recap here, we have a very nice build quality here on the Z2 from UMIDIGI. It is really quite good, and it does have a bit of a Samsung kind of look to it. The frame they've used around there, metal volume buttons, dual cameras on the rear. However, at the time of this video, we cannot use the secondary cameras to take those portrait mode or depth effect photos, which is a shame. That feature releasing with the phone and not being available isn't great, but I expect that that will be coming soon with some firmware updates. So it does run stock Android 8.1. This is definitely one of the best features of the phone because it doesn't have any bloat either, which is good. ROM performance surprises here that it is very quick, it is fast, it's smooth. The screen is also another positive, that it's a bright screen. Now, we also have global LTE support on this one, so it's going to work everywhere around the world. Another positive. So when it comes to the cons, well, the loudspeaker performance isn't so great, and with the notch, you are missing out on seeing some details. For example, you cannot see some of the notifications. We can't see actually any notifications with the current firmware the way it's set up. You have to swipe down to see the battery percent. Now, this happens with other mobile phones as well. You don't have any 4K video recording. So other mobile phones that sell in the similar price category and group of this phone, they offer, I feel, a bit more there because you're getting 4K video support. Some of them even have electronic image stabilization support, the likes of, for example, the Redmi Note 5. That one there sells for about 220 US, and if you use Open Camera, you get EIS support, and you do get a little bit more there. So it really depends on what you want from a mobile phone. There's also one other thing too that I didn't point out in the video, but it is missing a status LED on this phone. It's nowhere to be found, and even when you're charging it, there's no little red light to tell you that you're charging. You've got to look at the screen. You can turn the screen on and see the battery percent there. So battery life, it's going to last for around about 7 to 8 hours of on-screen time. That's continuous, but expect around about 6 hours there. Now, charge time, it's fairly quick. It comes in around 1 hour and 50 minutes to fully charge the phone with the included charger. So that isn't bad there. Thank you so much for watching this unboxing and hands-on with the UMIDIGI Z2, and I do hope to see you back in the channel with more up-and-coming reviews.